Oh my god.
I'm gonna cry.
Listen, that's so. She's probably not gonna say anything's wrong.
Liz doesn't care.
It's so like I hate when that happens.
Last time that I saw her, I was like, yeah.
Oh yeah, you were out.
Remember when oh my god, this is so funny. I remember this, I don't remember this. But I went and I introduced this guy. Okay, his name's Muhammad. And I went to Dina. Sorry, I went to Dina. And I was like, I don't know who this is yet. So I was introducing him to Dina. And I go, you know, this is Dina. No. And then I like, why did I say your name? But I said, this is Dina. And she said, say it in your picture. I said, sorry, this is Dina.
No, also, was Dina there?
Yeah.
She came.
No. And if she came, like, we lasted 5 minutes because we had to pick them at 10. Okay? That's like really early, yeah. So I got there at 8:45. That's when we like at like 9. So yeah. So then everyone comes at like 9:55. Friday. Which is weird because like it's not the music was like loud.
Yeah.
It was like pretty loud. It was like low key.
Alright, dear. I'm sorry.
And so then Taiwan, and then whatever.
Okay, I gotta go.
So I was just like, yeah, I'm still like really busy. I couldn't see anything right, but like I was like, you're worried. I was like, totally like,
In situation,
yeah,
depends on how much.
yeah. So I was still like able to like walk straight and like talk to my parents. So busy, and I go to my room and I pass. No.
Oh, hey.
I was like, Kinda.
How does your face look?
Kinda.
It's not because
What was this? Somewhere between 18.
Holy crap. Yeah. Settings. That's how we got years of this.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, she told me that she like confessed to her parents that she was drinking.
No.
That's not the time. That's not the time. We're just hanging out like fish waves.
oh, that's what it is. That's how great it is.
Everyone in Machi was working out. What the heck?
She's just crying all the time.
No, they're writing their speeches. You know, they come here and they perform.
Oh yeah, I know I do this guy something.
No, we don't do anything until it's ready.
What do you need here?
Some.
No, maybe.
Chapman. No, not for this room. I just saw you a few minutes ago.
Oh, okay,
I'm
I
in
was
the room.
so,
I'm in the room next
so
door.
confused. I was like, what the hell? That's a 2 times. It's not the most boring jobs, I'm sorry. Like, I'm doing freaking debate things on that side for the past today and tomorrow.
I already did debate. Now I'm doing Extemp. Tomorrow I'm doing oratory. Then I'm doing impromptu. Then I'm doing serious OI, which is serious oral inter. And then comedy duet. And then debate semifinals in the theater. I have 7 different shifts. You should podcast that as well.
Yeah, Tanya has like 8 shifts.
Yeah, I know.
Like, how does that even work? So I'm glad that it makes sense. I wish they both that same thing.
Same. Tomorrow I stay till 7:15. But I'm also hosting. I'm scared. I don't want to get too close. Why?
Excuse us.
But it is. It is. Our house is renovating. We're in the middle of fucking cleaning houses. She still said yeah. The kitchen for our new house is being put in today. When the kitchen is done, we're moving. The reason that we're not moving now is because it's in my bed.
Hey guys.
No, nobody's watching. Actually has.
No. Mommy, I just remember last year.
Yeah.
Always win.
Hello.
Is this the loading group?
And
No,
other.
Is this for Extemp?
Yes, other.
I think it's my drawing pad, 46.
Drawing store.
They have some middle school students participating.
Oh.
Like, do you remember the careers when they were here before?
I don't know who the girls are. My mom was talking about them today. I don't know.
Like, they would have
It
been
sounds
here.
familiar. I just can't.
They left.
see the name. Picture.
In maybe 2009 or 10?
Oh yeah.
You were
Of
here.
course not. No.
No, you weren't. When did you come?
Fourth grade. 2013.
I guess 9 or 10 was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is that right? Oh my gosh, that's a long time. Yeah, because I know when their kids were little, and their oldest is in middle school now. No, wait a minute. Is there? Yeah. I'd say 9 or 10 is probably when they left. Uh, 11. Wow.
Somewhere like that.
If that's still live streaming, I'm a little embarrassed right now. But if there's anybody actually, maybe this is the reality. If there's anybody actually listening, that's really boring.
I just checked.
I'm gonna watch an empty room.
You want some pretzels?
I wish I had the voice in your hand.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Was there a 5-second rule?
I didn't matter that, I don't have to have 5 seconds.
Sorry.
Where are you gonna? Right now?
My best friend.
Was everyone?
No.
I swear.
No.
I shall walk up.
No. What's that? I wish I was
Half my little.
Okay.
Shots. Wait. Like video minutes. When one by one, we're like a bit. Yeah, that's funny. Aren't you the one supposed to be talking?
No, all we do is flip a coin.
It's not easy. It's not as easy.
Yeah, but
It's not our job.
well, let's do
Well, that's our job. First time I did this. So cool, like, down, I don't like this. Okay, turn one, I'll hold like this. I turn one, I hold this, I turn two.
No,
Turn three, I do this.
no.
So it's like, I was running, I didn't know what to do. And then we were like, we were confused. I'm like, telling me your sister was nice about it, she didn't say anything, so.
Did you judge her?
If I talked to her,
Yeah.
why should she do it?
Really? What did you do today?
About Kenya and Polio. Something like the people against them. People against them are like. People against them.
Yeah.
They it was just a funny thing. All they talk about was how like where are your sources? Where are your sources? And even John. It was just a really funny like debates. And how do you like that's not okay. Therefore, he's disproved your thing. I was like, she's really good. I don't know what's wrong, but it's like really good. But what I did was really good.
How did this one hurt? Really?
Did not even feel it. I felt this and all of these more than this. I don't know why.
My older sister has this one, and like a few days after she got it, she went to sleep on it, and it went inside her ear. Like the piercing itself was in here, and the ball went inside. Yeah, so she had to get it like kind of done to get it out.
Oh, I think maybe she got it like she got it done.
No, she got the whole.
Because you know, like, you know, like, why? Because I know when I see a very aggressive one, it never ended anything. I don't know if I'm crazy, because it's like a mosquito flying around my ear, so I thought it went in my ear. So I go and I take a picture, and I go take a picture, and I see the dog. I start crying, okay? And I run to my aunt, and I go, it's going in my ear. And she's like, go ahead. She puts her fingers and tries to get out. She's like, there's nothing. And I go back, I'm like, oh, there was a mosquito. I show her the video, it's the log. Repeat that thing. It was the log. Because I just saw wings again. Yeah, that's the number one.
Yeah, I had this one, two of those piercings like next to each other. And
I'm really going to the dog. It's sometimes really easy.
my aunt had a tongue.
No.
It's so weird, like I forget that she has it, and I just see like a black ball like moving on.
How do you eat? You know what I mean? Like, you have
Like she can like push it up, like she goes like this, and she like pushes her legs onto her like the bottom of her mouth, like that. The piercing like sticks out. It's so weird. So like, yeah, right.
How do you eat
Lemon.
Oh, that is no, but yeah, like, if you think about it, how do they eat? Like, imagine they eat like the chewy food. They chew on their freaking piercing, like. Wow.
Ow.
I'm just gonna stick to
There's so much.
They're probably having the gut, like the big thing. They're probably having fun. It's very entertaining. Okay, pretend you're saying speech. I'm gonna practice my time. Go.
So weird.
This timer is confusing.
True. This is clear.
No, this is millisecond, right?
Yeah. This is seconds.
والله عشان كان يوم tiny شيء فأنا هيك I'm scared. If you're ready, say something.
So I do literally.
Is that Alex?
Yeah.
What is that?
That's what's her name? Zika.
James Warner.
Yeah.
It possibly. So I can't send timer.
Want to see the most famous TikTok?
Yeah.
Got 98.7K.
Yes. Why is it friends with me? Because I have to change it.
My dad, and I say come back to Hamad, and then he starts dancing, and like everybody went crazy. And so like it went like almost 100,000 people saw it, yeah. So it's like his employees and like his like coworkers and everyone, like grown men, have TikTok, which is weird, and they saw it, and like they started downloading it and sending it to him, and they were like, bro, you should be embarrassed, like you can't do this with your dog. I was like, what the heck? It's like all these sexist men saying crap. And then my dad got like really, really embarrassed. And so like when it hit 23K, I was like, this is insane. What is happening? And I told him, he was like, if it gets more, delete it. I was like, okay, yeah. Because it's embarrassing for him. So then it got time to 8, and he was like, let's delete it. It was too much. I felt bad.
But why are these like people in university like so like childish?
I don't know.
Like 4-year-olds.
And like, there's this guy, okay, this is so weird, but there are these people that my dad used to know when he lived in Alabama. And they were like really, really close. And one of the guys he knew has a brother who lives in Jordan. And the brother saw a TikTok and he duetted it with me. He made a duet with me of like, he was like watching my dad and then he started laughing. I can still find the duet, I'll show you.
No, isn't it messed up that grown men are having?
It's weird. Okay, this is one of the duets I made. He's just like this really, just staring. What's happening? Ja, już na razie mam to. It's like a shameful thing. There you go. على شو مبسوط إخوان زي الإخوان هيك إخوان بزعل لما يشوف بزعل لما يشوف so like
Yeah, I understand. That's really messed up, bro.
yeah
A lot of things. It's fine. I'm really confused. Like, what time are they supposed to come in?
Extemp is the only one that starts late because they have half an hour to prepare a speech. So the first one drew at 4:40. We have half an hour, so the first one will start at 5:10.
I'm just confused. Like, it's really crazy.
And you're like, wait, 45, it's supposed to start 15 minutes ago, we're going on, why am I still sitting here? Is one of you in here and one somewhere else? Or you're
yeah I'm in the other.
Yeah, Extemp is a little different. So it'll be, technically it should be 5:10, 5:16, 5:22, 5:28, 5:44, 5:34.
The second favorite one is 15.6 GB inside and
It's 'cause you can-
we have but it's kind of like funny. Like all the funny ones I make friends on.
Why? If anyone wants to like the last again, those things.
Yeah, I know. Usually move down. Here's your place and everything. I made a group one, all the sites.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah,
I want to see.
we talk them out in 2 minutes. This one is so good.
So good. Yeah, I can, take more.
You know the challenge where you take off like the sheet pants? You take them off like that. Yeah. Like this one. But it's so bad. But it's bad because you have to stop the filming, so it's like patchy. You know what I mean?
See? She did, sorry.
Mhm.
It's too long.
Mhm.
You can't read it. Yeah, doesn't.
I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're saying.
Isn't your older sister?
Yeah.
Could you? Joel's not. Just fill in the details. And it's not supposed to be funny, it's just supposed to be cringy / eager, but on TikTok and Instagram, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
You move these?
No way.
Um,
Do you have all the videos of you eating? It's like, you know.
I have all the rules, so I keep adding, I got to from 2 years ago.
Oh,
Would you do that too?
no.
Why?
I the ones of me crying.
I'm crying, sleeping, and eating.
I only have the crying one.
I enjoy my crying so much.
There's pictures and there's videos. This one is the worst. I'm literally break down my face is like completely red.
It makes me cry that much.
Body. Good though. I'm really sure.
Wow, like these two massive green, I'll do that because
No, these are my friends and have them cry and take pictures of them. You know this one? You know when you're crying, but you don't want the tears to come out.
and so it's up in your eyes.
And then yeah, and then when you let it go out, it's like a like a chain. That's what it is. How glassy.
It does super glassy.
Yeah, goodness is good.
Your crying face is so much chillier than mine. Mine is like too much, man. I cried this week, I think 3 times. I'm gonna be bothered.
No.
Okay, I'm fine. Crying. Crying. Oh, let's start with like straight 10 to 7. I saw that. Not too bad.
Oh.
You should try for the spider. I never used to cry. And then here I'm crying at school. This year is no good year for me. Okay, where else? It's easier because of grades. Okay, this is because a long story about I was crying so much. It's not making me cry. But these are my tangents. Okay, basically, so I cancelled my aunt's account because it needs a lot. She's supposed to do like homework. Okay, so that's we can be feedback on the acid. So I was like, "Close, I get out. It's fine." My mom took me out of the room. And she just came, she was yelling at me, calling me, I'm not a hard worker. Thanks, mom. And being so disrespectful to me. And I didn't talk to her mom. My mom was like, "Tell my father, I told him not to come like 5 times." And when she came to now, she was eating the bun non-stop. I was crying. Like, I used to love her. She was my favorite aunt now. Most people.
Can you hear it?
What the heck was that? No, man, I'm talking like you. Last time I talked to you, I think it was like a month ago. No, 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 heads up. 4 months ago. 4 months ago. No, heads up, more at 5. A week or so. What are you doing?
Trying to see what my chin looks like. Out.
Oh, in your chin.
No, wax it.
Not coming up the.
But it's boy.
This is like an everything easier. I suddenly now I think small chin. Tiny.
Some of them is typical during the holidays, right?
You don't want this book. You don't want this sports shit.
Got all this book. I have something to go in.
Why are you then? This is this. No, I use it out. Oh, this is the time I found out. I cried for now. Because it's need so hard. Not working.
You know Anna Catherine?
Yeah, she's so.
Okay. I love her video. No. It's actually so nice.
Maybe not.
Like, what kind of videos is that?
It's not your other pieces of
What?
it's not Catherine.
Yeah.
She's not her. She has a home. She loves her. Great.
They're connected. No, Ozzy, she told me. No. And then she told, I should. Because he's my fashion designer. Yeah, I swear. Why? Why did you want? These maybe because your incomes. Yeah. But like, it's more than just. It's this side. See? I saw something. Drew. Drew. What you think? I'll just ask her. No, she's gonna ask me.
All right, I'm gonna start pretty soon.
Okay.
You guys need to have both your phones turned off.
Yep. I think it sounded like she. Yeah. She's been up? Yeah.
All right, you ready for this?
It's one by one, right?
They'll come in and do their speech, and then they'll sit down. I'm not allowed to leave. No one may leave.
Oh, because they know the topic. You know what the topic is.
Here's the two.
Wow.
I have no idea.
These are really like complicated questions. Like,
Oh, they're both about India. Seems to provide a benefit to the other side. It is
it's not here though.
Oh, but they're supposed to use only resources from certain texts that they've all been reading.
So it's fine. It's like,
And
it's not-
each round is for a different region, so there's gonna be one from the Middle East as well.
Oh,
and then
okay.
that phase, yeah, so.
So either way, they're both like.
Do you have the actual time?
Um,
Do you know what time it is?
oh, right now,
Turn
yes.
the one up.
I don't know. My earphone. So
Awesome, perfect.
Do I say stop and they stop, then stop them?
No, all you do is you just turn it to stop, and you hold it, and then you show me the time.
So I stop and they stop.
Because with this, if they go under a certain amount of time or over a certain amount of time, they automatically go to fourth place. So they will take the time seriously.
minutes?
Yeah.
4 minutes?
At 14 is when they come. Nora's timing it in there and she'll bring them in. Your sister's in our room.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Time?
We should, like, are you going to take something out?
I'm going to go time.
There's 2 rooms on the same event. So there's 2 people in there that started at 4:44. And then one will come to this room and Omar will come to our room and somebody else will come to her room. So what did you time for the last one as well?
No, it's time for debates. So you did? Yeah.
How was it?
They were really good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like our school was like really good.
Good.
And also the other ones, obviously, they were very
Yeah.
kept debating.
Well, pretty amazing to hear, isn't it?
It is.
Whoa, you guys know what you're talking about.
I'm really confused by that.
I was judging debate, and I'm like,
Probably.
taking lots of notes, hoping that somehow by writing all this stuff down, eventually by the end, there would be a clear answer. No, light would come down to the sky or whatever. Is the live streaming working?
Let me check.
That's something I don't know how to check.
I think the guy came. Oh no, that was for upstairs. Welcome to blah blah. It looks like it's working.
Okay. We'll just pretend it is.
Oh, and there's 2 people watching. Okay.
Oh, really?
No.
You better watch out what we talk about.
Cheers.
I guess, yeah, because there would be people back in where they're from that would want to.
Exactly.
Hear the kids.
Yeah. Off.
You're gonna extend to it.
Yeah,
I'm not supposed to go get that.
I just went and checked. They started at 44, so the first one will come in at 14.
1 minute.
Yeah, they'll bring him. Nora's gonna bring him. They have to speak for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Maybe there was a lower number.
Oh, so minimum is 4 minutes and 30 seconds. What's the max?
6 minutes. I mean, they can keep going, but they won't because
They know automatically where they're released. Like right after this, or does it
No.
take time?
they won't find out. I don't think they find out until after the voting. So they just find out whether or not they make finals tomorrow. No, they don't even find out whether they make finals until Friday.
That's not stressful.
It's stressful. The first tournament that I went to, they actually did. They posted every round, all of the numbers. Okay.
Hello.
Hello, I can close the door. Where's my closing door? Thank you, Elmer.
In order to understand if a regional war were to occur and the causes of this war, we must understand what is happening in the current state of Kashmir. Kashmir is in a state of conflict as 3 different regional countries occupy part of it. About 70% of it is run by India, 30% of the state is run by Pakistan, and 15% of it is run by China. We have seen similar wars and conflicts, such as in the Palestine and Israeli conflict, where a fight for land is ongoing and things only seem to be getting messier. When answering the question, if a regional war were to occur, would the current situation in Kashmir be the main cause? The answer is yes. There are many reasons that can be factored in. According to CNN on September 27th, the people of Kashmir have been under complete lockdowns. They have seen shortages of food and medicine. Thousands have been detained through mass arrests. Tens of thousands of troops roam the streets of Kashmir, and residents have alleged beatings with mistreatment. According to the BBC on September 20th, both Indian and Pakistani leaders say things they don't mean to score political points. It is more likely that Indian politicians making such statements try to create a new issue to counter Pakistan's narrative over India's poor human rights. With such fight for reputation and constant violence, there's no doubt that the current state of Kashmir would be a big factor in such a regional war. Constant violence is occurring where, according to the BBC, on September 27th, India launched airstrikes against militants in Pakistani territory in response to a suicide attack which killed 40 Indian soldiers. This was the first launch strike across the line of control, which has divided the region since the Indo-Pakistani War of 1971. The, con- the constant response of violence, where many more examples can be brought up, such as in September 2016, Narendra Modi ordered surgical strikes on militants, killing 18 soldiers. There is no doubt that constant violence and fight for reputation due to the current state of Kashmir would be the main cause of a regional war. That's it. Thank you.
Go ahead and grab a seat.
Good luck.
Are you adding?
Yes, I'm ready.
Welcome.
Start again?
Yeah.
If a regional war were to occur, would the current situation in Kashmir be the main cause? When I was a kid, like many other kids, I loved toys. And at a young age in our academic lives, playing with the toys that they provided. And some days, me and my friend would have our eyes on the same toy, and would both try to get it. Would both try to claim that it's our toy for that time, not the other person's toy. And I feel that is a similar situation to what's happening between India, Kashmir, and Pakistan. According to Washington Post's August 9th article, here's how India's decision to cut Kashmir's autonomy will affect South Asia and the world. Pakistan is funding Kashmiri rebels with arms, fighters, and directions. And these are the same Kashmiri rebels that have been responsible for the deaths of Indian troops in those territories every year. This shows how Pakistan are basically funding and contributing to the deaths of Indian soldiers, which could lead to a regional war. Second of all, India has been arresting so-called threats. Like, for example, Farooq Abdullah, who is 81 years of age. He was arrested and he is a mainstream Kashmiri politician. And this was from the article, India detains prominent Kashmiri leader under law critics called draconian, from Washington Post, published on September 16th. The point of view from Kashmiri citizens is often underlooked in this issue. They're mainly talking about Mr. Modi's perspective and Mr. Khan's perspectives, but I don't feel that the perspectives of the Kashmiris are being covered enough. And if that was brutal, then what happened this time was even more brutal. There was a crackdown in Kashmir that was responsible for the disappearance of many men, even young boys. A woman who had 92 years of age, Jan, failed to stop the police from taking her grandson away because they beat her with a stick. And this is according to the Washington Post article, October 23. India crackdown in Kashmir has paralyzed and silenced entire communities. Kashmir has been a problem for the Indians and the Pakistanis for many years. Ever since the partition in 1947, that contributes to 70 plus years of this conflict. And the parties need to work this out. The voices of the Kashmiri citizens need to be heard. The voices of the government of Pakistan need to be heard, and the voices of the Indian government need to be heard. They need to work this out, which is something that these parties have failed to do for 70 plus years, as this is contributing to more and more fatalities. And as a country, they must stop having these fatalities. And if these parties don't work this out in a matter of time, then we could be seeing a regional war between South Asia, such as India, Pakistan, and Kashmir. And this would not only affect every country in South Asia, this could affect the entire world. So that is why they need to work this out and listen to each other's opinions, because if they don't, a lot of people will die. And that is not in the best interests of anybody. Thank you.
conflict between India and Kashmir has been ongoing for years now, ever since 1947 to be specific. The two countries have been battling ownership of land, something that has been present many times throughout world history. The two nations, both of them nuclear armed, will not hesitate to strike when necessary. The nuclear threat has been present for quite some time now, and it's only a matter of time until it becomes reality. This all leads to the question, if a regional war were to occur, would the current situation in Kashmir be the main cause? In which my answer is yes, due to the reasons that hard power is being used as a foreign policy tool. Secondly, India's government's use of oppression, and thirdly, the extremism and xenophobia that flood the two nations. In an article written by Foreign Policy on September 19th, it stated that people of India and Pakistan are willing to do whatever it takes to win this long-term conflict, even if it means going to nuclear war. Now, this can be attributed back to the term hard power, which is a term used to describe a country's use of threats or use of violence to accomplish a specific thing. Now, both countries are using threats of nuclear war, which attributes directly back to hard power. Considering President Modi's approach on the matter and the endorsement he has received from President Trump, a president of a leading Western nation, a war is very likely to occur. Also, Modi's actions concerning revoking the Indian-administered Kashmir autonomous status, this is only one step closer to war. This can be attributed back to other events in history, such as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, in which, due to Israel getting endorsement from many countries around the world, they have managed to oppress the people of Palestine for many, many years now. And with support from a leading nation such as the U.S., it is very easy that India, after the endorsement of President Trump, can win this conflict between Kashmir and India. Secondly, India's government's use of repression. In an article by BBC published on October 31st, it stated that the Indian military uses extreme methods of violence on Pakistanis. Despite the fact that there have been many Pakistani terrorist groups and terrorist attacks on Indians, it is unethical and unfair to assume that an entire population is composed of terrorists. When thinking back to times where terrorist organizations have emerged, it has all been during times of war. For example, the Soviet-Afghan War, in which terrorist organizations such as Al-Qaeda and Taliban emerged due to the reason that the war with the Soviet nation was very extreme. Almost 98% of the Kashmir and Jammu population will be affected by Modi's and the military's techniques due to the reason that even religion practice is being oppressed. To put this into perspective, Kashmir has a population of 8 million, whereas Jammu has a population of 6 million, both of different religions. Thirdly, in an article published by the India Times on November 1st, it stated that India warned other nations of their interference with their conflict between Kashmir, and stated that their foreign policy matters should not be discussed. The article discussed how the government of India is embracing the ways that the Chinese government has monitored their Muslim population, which the Chinese government has monitored the Muslim population by putting Muslims in concentration camps and stripping away their rights of religious practice and religious freedom. This emphasizes the third claim by showing how extreme C and xenophobia are both being used to run an entire nation. This is similar to things like the Holocaust, in which religion and race was oppressed, and people were not allowed to express themselves freely. Looking back at the implications of the Holocaust, the amount of people who lost their life, there were many people who lost their life due to simply the reason that they were unable to practice their religion and show their true ethnicity. If the government of India wants to embrace the ways that the Chinese government is currently treating their Muslim population, this could lead to something bigger than war. This could lead to something that could be as close as what happened in the Holocaust. And if India has warned other nations of interference, organizations such as NATO will be affected by this. In conclusion, the question was, if a regional war were to occur, would the current situation in Kashmir be the main cause? In which my answer was yes, due to India's oppression of Kashmir and their constant retaliation of terrorist attacks that have happened from years ago, and their constant xenophobia projected on Pakistani people, and thirdly, both nations' use of hard power.
Xenophobia the fear of rats. Oh no, that's musophobia.
So lately on the streets, we've been all hearing this chant, Modi, Modi, Ab ki baar Modi Sarkar, and we've been hearing Howdy Modi. But let's ask the question, howdy economy? The Indian economy is plummeting. We are seeing steady decline in the GDP, but our sheer ignorance and arrogance towards facts and statistics is what makes us ask the question, is the Modi government doing enough to fix India's economic system? The aggrandizement of Modi and the Bharatiya Janata Party has left the government with this question too. And my response to that is no. The facts speak for themselves. The Modi government has failed to acknowledge the recession-like turmoil in the Indian economy. My first point is that Mr. Modi has failed to acknowledge looming dangers to India's economy and is now struggling to cope with an alarmingly sharp slowdown, as a statement by The Economist on the 24th October article. In the same article, it quoted, in the first half of 2019, new banking credit to businesses crashed by 88% and growth fell from 8% to 5% this year. The alarming reality of these statistics is that there has been a modicum of reform to prevalent issues in the economy. Declining GDP, business to credit ratios crashing, there has been no reform, and we see this through these statistics. We do not see the Modi government making any reform to the crashing banking to business credits as businesses crash because they are no longer able to take credit from these banks. 88% plummet, 8% GDP growth to 5%. And what is the reform that we're seeing? Because if the Modi government is doing enough, then we would see an increase in these numbers and not a decline. The next point is that Modi's attempt to make reforms and the Modi government has attempted to make reforms, but the consequences of these reforms has only hurted India's economy further. Modi's reform policies can be seen as further injuring a wounded man. Now the new buyback tax rate is a reform that the Modi government has brought about. However, new discounted 15% buyback tax is supposed to manufacturers. However, manufacturers who take the plunge in India will be unable to accept other incentives, as reported by 26 September Economist article. Now this statistic shows us that with the new buyback tax rates that the Indian government has proposed, the theoretical argument is that it will provide incentive for these new manufacturers, but the underlying fact is that it does not. That globalization will no longer work in India because we will not see incentive for manufacturers to purchase stocks in India's economy, and we will not see any incentive for manufacturing products in India because of the simple new reform that a cut in buyback tax rates is causing. And we only see this wound of low manufacturing in India, a system of low manufacturing and high agrarian, an economy dependent on its high agrarian sector is facing an issue that there is not enough manufacturing. And instead of providing more incentive for manufacturers to manufacture in India, we are seeing less incentive a wound is being cut open and it's being bled further out because now there is less incentive than there was before. And now, of course, the last point is that in the Indian economy is in a slump. It's been the worst since in the past 2 decades, and it is and officially we can call it a recession. The GDP grew by 5% in 3 months compared to last year's 8%. In the next quarter, there was a 5.8% growth. This was the weakest growth rate that has been recorded under Modi, as reported by 30th August article by CNN. Now, these statistics show us that the attempts that Modi has made to make reforms, modicum of reforms to prevalent issues, and reforms to open wounds that have only hurt the Indian economy more, has shown that the Modi government is seemingly ineffective at bettering the economy or improving the economic system and the economic slump. Because if the GDP seemingly declines from the GDP growth rate seemingly declines from 8% to 5% in 1 year, and if the worst growth rate of the and if it has been recorded as Modi's worst growth rate, then how can we answer this question with opposing arguments? What is the argument that what has Modi been doing to better the economy or to simply improve the economy? Because if there was something, then we would not see such steady decline in the GDP growth rate. We would not see less incentive for manufacturers to produce goods in India, and we would see more tax to credit to businesses. We would see the ratio of credit to businesses not plummet by 88%. These reforms aren't enough. The Modi government isn't doing enough. And if the Modi government seemingly does something, it hurts the economy furthermore. The Modi government is trying. It tried with demonetization, but these aren't approachable reforms. And these reforms are seemingly not working. What we need is a steady solution in order to fix India's economic slump. And we need to see India rise above its recession-like status because it is being because the word recession is being thrown around in India, and we need to fix that. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Honorable Judge. The Speaker today would like to answer the question, if a regional war were to occur, would the current situation in Kashmir be the main cause? And unequivocally, the Speaker today says, yes, it would be. But before the Speaker continues, just like to observe a moment of silence for the true victims of this conflict, the people of Kashmir. For reasons that will be known in my speech, the true victims are the Kashmiris in a potential war between India and Pakistan, the two major actors in South Asia, over this piece of land that has been disputed for over 70 years. And this is because of three reasons. Firstly, the current situation in Kashmir is seen as a breach of the status quo by the Pakistani government, and as such, an act of aggression, prompting it to continue hostilities with its age-old rival India. Second, because the Pakistani government views the current situation in Kashmir as an oppressive and tyrannical state, and thus uses this situation to legitimize its position in the region. And third, because Pakistan has already showed demonstrably its interest in continuing hostilities with India in their recent moves directly linked to the situation in Kashmir. To begin with, according to an Economist article dated August 8th, at one fell swoop, India's central government has ended the special status enjoyed by Jammu and Kashmir and abolished it as a state. For 70 years, it had granted the bitterly disputed Muslim majority region a modicum of autonomy within India. According to another article by Washington Post on August 9th, contention over Kashmir broke out soon after the British partitioned India into two countries in 1947. With the current move, Pakistan perceives that the 7-decade-long status quo has been reached symbolically. This is an extremely important point to note. Because the Kashmir issue, a flashpoint in South Asia for 7 decades, has only recently been reached by the Indian government, this current situation is seen as a breach of the status quo and thus will not be taken lightly by the Pakistani government. And if tensions were to ensue, definitely a regional war would be the consequence of this action. Secondly, according to a Washington Post article dated September 16, India retains prominent Kashmiri leader under law critics called draconian, charging Farooq Abdullah, most senior mainstream politician in Kashmir, under a controversial law allowing detention without trial for up to 2 years. India has arrested politicians, lawyers, activists, party workers, and young men, describing them as threats to public order. This is viewed by the Pakistani government as tyrannical and oppressive. Furthermore, adding to the situation, in an Economist article dated October 5th, mobile phones and the internet remain cut off. Getting around is hard and getting in or out is possible only on the authorities say so. In practice, the valley is a vast open air detention center. Pakistan uses this rhetoric to describe Kashmir as essentially a prison in the United Nations, according to a Washington Post article dated September 10th. Pakistani Foreign Minister accused India at UN-backed Human Rights Council of turning Kashmir into, quote, the largest prison on this planet. Continuing, I shudder to mention the word genocide here, but I must. You see, Pakistan is using the current situation in Kashmir to legitimize and internationalize what is otherwise an internal issue of India, the state of Kashmir, by justifying what it views as its recent tyrannical and oppressive move. This will only further cause tensions in the region and cause a regional war. And lastly, a third point, leading to an inevitable regional war if tensions were to continue to arise. In an October 28th article by the Times of India, the Indian PM is to take longer route to Saudi Arabia as Pakistan yet again denies airspace use. Another example of Pakistan overtly provoking the Indian government, dated October 30th, and a Times of India article. If tensions with India rise on Kashmir, Pakistan will be compelled to go to war. Hence, these cover Pakistan in its actions and by a statement in one of their key ministers, Amin Gandapur. This track record of openly breaching this topic with India and provoking it on many occasions has the desired effect of continuing tensions with the Indian government. Thus, it would be foolish to say that the Kashmir issue is not important, but in fact, the most important issue in the region, inevitably leading to a regional war between India and Pakistan. But to leave off, I would just like to say that we as members of the international community, global citizens, are duty bound, obliged to, whatever the consequences may be of this action, whether war is to come or not, stand in solidarity with the Kashmiri people. Because as I said at the beginning of the speech, they are the two victims. Whether the soldiers of Pakistan and India go off to war, it's Kashmir and its citizens who have suffered for the past 70 years and will continue to do so if this conflict is not resolved quickly. Thank you.
Well, that was the end of this
Thank
round. You can breathe. Yeah, what's next one? Thanks for your time. 5:30. Are we done?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Miss.